The hall was filled with alien laughter. Their voices echoed like broken metal. Sharp and cruel, they wanted a show, not a fight, not a song, but a cruel form of entertainment. In the center of the arena stood a human janitor named Mark. His clothes were simple, stained from long days of cleaning floors no one cared about. He never belonged to their world, yet somehow he was always in the middle of their games. The guards dragged something across the floor. It was not an object, it was a girl, an alien girl, her body bruised, her face pale, her breath weak. She was shaking as if every step hurt. Chains rattled on her thin arms, her glowing eyes were dim, almost empty. The crowd cheered louder, mocking her pain. They gave you a gift, human, one of the alien leaders sneered. His teeth were sharp, his skin covered in scars. Use her, break her, show us what a human does when given something worthless. Mark's heart froze. He looked at the girl, so small, so fragile. Her knees scraped against the hard floor, leaving faint marks of blood. She could not even lift her head. The aliens laughed harder. They wanted him to act like a monster. They wanted to see him destroy what was already broken, but Mark did not move. He stood frozen, staring at her trembling form. In his chest something stirred. He remembered nights on Earth when he saw wounded animals abandoned in the streets. He remembered bending down, giving them water, giving them a chance. That memory burned stronger than the laughter around him. The alien girl whispered something. It was so soft that only Mark could hear. Single word broken by pain. Please, the crowd thought she begged for mercy from him. They laughed, clapping, shouting, waiting for him to strike. But inside, Mark's hands shook for another reason. That single word was not fear. It was hope, faint but alive. Mark knelt beside her. The arena went silent. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. Her skin was cold, almost lifeless. He looked into her dim eyes and spoke softly, "You're safe with me." Gasps filled the hall. No one expected that. The leaders growled in anger. What are you doing, human? Break her now. But Mark ignored them. He slid his arm under her body and lifted her slowly, carefully, as if she were made of glass. The girl's head rested against his chest. She was light, too light for someone her age. It made his stomach twist with anger. The crowd roared with rage. They shouted insults. They threw objects into the arena, but Mark only held her tighter. He whispered again, his voice steady, "I won't hurt you." The alien leader slammed his fist against the railing. His voice thundered, "Do you defy us, human? Do you dare to shame us?" In front of the crowd, Mark's heart pounded. He knew this choice could cost him everything. He was just a janitor, a man with no weapons, no power, no allies. Yet in that moment his will was stronger than their threats. The alien girl stirred slightly in his arms. Her faint glowing eyes flickered. A tear slid down her cheek. It was the first sign that she still had a soul left inside her. Mark looked up at the leader. His voice was quiet but firm. "If you think cruelty is entertainment, then you are weaker than she is." The hall exploded with fury. The crowd screamed. Guards reached for their weapons. Suspense filled the air like fire waiting to burst. The alien girl trembled in his arms, but her fingers weakly gripped his sleeve. That tiny grip told Mark he had made the right choice. No matter what came next, he would not let her go. He stood in the middle of the arena, surrounded by enemies, holding the broken girl close to his chest. The laughter had stopped. The cruelty had turned into silence. First stone of rebellion had been thrown, not with weapons, not with fire, but with mercy, and in that silence a dangerous truth was born. One human had justified an empire, not with power but with kindness. The arena was chaos. The aliens shouted, their voices sharp and furious. They wanted blood. They wanted Mark to obey. But the human stood tall, holding the broken alien girl in his arms. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but his grip did not loosen. The leader hissed, his voice echoing across the chamber, "Human, put her down or you will pay with your life." Mark looked up. His face was pale, but his eyes were steady. For years he had been ignored, mocked, treated as less than nothing. Yet in that moment, every eye in the arena was on him. Every voice demanded his surrender. Still he whispered to the girl in his arms, "I'm not letting them touch you again." The girl's weak fingers clutched his shirt. Her glowing eyes flickered faintly. She could barely speak, but he felt her tiny breath against his chest. It was enough to keep him standing. The guards began to move, armored boots striking the floor. Their weapons glimmered under the lights. Crowd cheered for violence. They wanted to see the human crushed, but Mark did not run. Instead, he took a step forward. Each step was heavy, as if chains dragged at his feet, but he refused to stop. His voice carried across the arena, soft but firm. "I choose not to hurt her. I choose to save her." The crowd fell silent for a heartbeat. No one expected defiance. Janitor had no right to resist, no power to speak, and yet here he was refusing. The leader's face twisted with wrath. "You dare choose against us, against the will of the masters?" Mark's heart pounded like thunder. Fear pressed against his chest, but something stronger pushed back. He remembered the girl's faint whisper, "Please." That one word had burned into his soul. The guards closed in. Their shadows stretched long across the sand. Mark turned, searching for a way out. His eyes caught sight of the maintenance tunnel, small passages hidden beneath the stands. He knew those tunnels. He had cleaned them, repaired them, memorized. Then with one deep breath, Mark made his choice. He tightened his hold on the girl, then suddenly ran toward the nearest tunnel. The crowd erupted in rage. Objects flew from every side. Stones, bottles, metal scraps rained down. A strike hit his shoulder. Another grazed his back, but he did not slow. The girl whimpered softly. Her body shook in his arms. Mark whispered to her while running, "Hold on just a little longer. I'll get you out." Tunnel entrance loomed ahead. Guards shouted orders. Weapons fired. Bolts of energy crackled past him, scorching the ground. Mark dove into the narrow passage just as a blast struck the wall. Behind him, inside the tunnel, darkness swallowed them. The sounds of the arena faded, replaced by the heavy echo of his footsteps and the girl's shallow breathing. The air was damp, filled with dust and old oil, but it felt safer than the stage of cruelty he had just left. Mark leaned against the wall for a moment, catching his breath. His arms trembled, but he kept holding her. He could feel how weak she was, how fragile. Each heartbeat felt like it might be her last. Her voice broke the silence, faint and trembling. Why? Save me." Mark lowered his head. His voice cracked with honesty. "Because no one else would. Because you don't deserve this." For the first time, her dim eyes met his fully. There was pain, yes, but beneath it a spark flickered. a tiny flame of life refusing to die. Mark's choice was no longer just about mercy. He knew what it meant now. By saving her, he had challenged the masters themselves. He had turned their entertainment into an insult. Their wrath would follow him through every corridor, every corner, until either he or they were broken. He pushed off the wall and kept moving, his steps quick, his mind sharp. He knew these tunnels were watched, but he also knew where shadows hid the blind spots. He had cleaned them countless times, and tonight his knowledge became his only weapon. The alien girl clung weakly to him, her head resting against his chest, her breathing shallow, but she whispered, "Again, my name, Lyra." Mark froze for a second. That name was not unknown. He had heard whispers in the lower decks, a girl once spoken of as something more, something important. He looked at her again, realizing that masters had not given him a broken toy. They had thrown away someone precious, someone they wanted erased. "Lyra," he whispered, "I won't let them erase you." The sound of boots echoed in the tunnel. Behind them, guards were coming. The chase had begun. Suspense filled the air. Mark's heart raced, but his choice had already been made. He adjusted Lyra in his arms, took a sharp turn, and vanished deeper into the darkness. Behind him, the furious roars of the masters shook the walls. Ahead of him, danger waited, but Mark had already crossed the line. He had chosen mercy, and that choice would change everything. The tunnels were narrow and dark. The air was heavy with the smell of rust, oil, and old dust. Pipes lined the walls, dripping slowly. The sound of Mark's footsteps echoed in the silence, carrying both fear and determination. In his arms, Lyra was barely conscious, her small body shivering against his chest. He kept moving, his eyes scanning every corner. Every sound behind him could mean guards. Every shadow could hide danger. His heart pounded fast, not just from running, but from the weight of the choice he had made. He had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. Lyra stirred slightly. Her voice was weak, almost broken. You should leave me." Mark shook his head, whispering fiercely, "Never. You're coming with me. We'll find a way out." But the truth was, he had no plan. Not yet. He only knew the tunnels, the hidden corners, the secret paths he had learned while working as a janitor. He had memorized them better than anyone else. That knowledge was his only weapon. Now, far behind, the sound of boots grew louder. Guards were spreading into the tunnels, their voices carried through the echoing walls, harsh and angry. They would not let him escape so easily. Mark stopped at a junction. He pressed his back against the wall, listening. He remembered that to the left, the tunnel curved toward the lower supply rooms. To the right, it led toward the old maintenance shafts. Above him, the pipes rattled softly, carrying water deeper into the station. He chose the right path. His boots splashed in shallow puddles as he moved quickly. The tunnel grew tighter, forcing him to crouch. Girl's breath brushed against his neck. "Shallow but steady. Why are you risking this?" Lyra whispered. Her words came slow, each one heavy with exhaustion. "They will kill you." Mark's jaw tightened. He whispered back, "Because you're still alive, that means you deserve a chance, and if I walk away now, I'll never forgive myself." Her dim eyes flickered. A weak glow shimmered beneath her bruised skin. Mark noticed it again, the strange light that seemed to pulse faintly through her veins. It wasn't normal. It was something hidden, something the masters wanted buried. The tunnel ahead opened into a small chamber. Pipes hissed as steam escaped. Through cracks, Mark set Lyra down gently against the wall, his arms locked. From carrying her, his chest burned from running, but he did not rest. He crouched low, scanning the floor until he found a loose metal panel. With a sharp pull, the panel lifted, revealing a hidden crawl space beneath. He had discovered it years ago while cleaning. It was narrow and filled with dust, but it could hide them. Mark lowered himself down first, then carefully pulled Lyra after him. She whimpered as her thin body scraped against the edges, but she did not resist. Once inside, the darkness closed around them. He pulled the panel shut just as the sound of guards reached the chamber above. Through the tiny cracks, he saw their shadows, tall figures with weapons glowing faintly. They searched, shouting in their alien tongue. One of them kicked the walls, another smashed the pipes. The steam hissed louder, but they did not find the crawl space. Mark held his breath, his heart pounded in his ears. He gently pressed a finger to Lyra's lips, telling her not to make a sound. She nodded weakly, her small hand trembling against his. Minutes passed, like hours. Finally, the guards left their footsteps fading down the other tunnel. Only then did Mark allow himself to breathe again. He turned to Lyra, whispering softly, "We can't stay here long. They'll search everywhere, but I know another way." Lyra's eyes blinked slowly. "You should not waste yourself for me." Mark shook his head. "I don't see it as wasting. I see it as fighting for something right." He adjusted her position, then crawled forward deeper into the hidden shaft. The space was tight, but he moved steadily, guiding her along. The air was thin, every breath heavy, but Mark refused to stop. After what felt like an eternity, the shaft opened into another tunnel, dimly lit with old flickering lights. He pulled himself and Lyra out, and for the first time they were away from the main patrol routes. Mark leaned against the wall, catching his breath. He looked at Lyra, her face pale, her eyes half closed. He could see the life fading from her, the bruises, the cuts, the weakness. It was too much for her fragile body. "No, don't you give up now," he whispered fiercely, his hands clenched into fists. "I promise to save you, and I will." Lyra's lips trembled. She whispered something so faint he almost missed it. "They feared me." Mark froze, his eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Her voice cracked as she tried to explain. "They feared what I am. That's why they gave me away." Mark's mind raced. He looked at her glowing veins. Again, the faint shimmer under her skin was not just sickness. It was something more, something hidden, something powerful. The truth hit him like a storm. Lyra wasn't just broken. She was dangerous to them. Not because she was weak, but because she carried something they could not control. Mark tightened his grip around her shoulders, his voice steady. "Then we'll find out what they're hiding and we'll use it. But first, I need to keep you alive." The sound of distant alarms echoed again through the tunnels. The hunt had not stopped. Masters would never allow her to escape. Mark straightened, lifting Lyra once more. His legs shook with exhaustion, but he forced himself forward. The escape plan had begun. It wasn't clear, it wasn't safe, but it was the only path left. And as he carried her deeper into the station's underbelly, one truth burned in his chest: saving her wasn't just an act of mercy anymore. It was rebellion. The tunnels no longer felt like shelter. They felt like a cage closing in. Alarms echoed across the station, sharp and merciless. Red lights flashed above, bathing the walls in a bloody glow. The hunt had begun. Mark carried Lyra in his arms. His legs were heavy, his shoulders burned, but he did not stop. Every second he wasted meant the hunters grew closer. He could already hear them. Armored boots striking the floors, metal scraping, orders shouted in their harsh alien tongue. Lyra stirred against his chest, her breathing shallow, her dim, glowing eyes tried to focus. Mark, you can't fight them all, Mark gritted. His teeth, maybe not, but I can keep running. I just need to keep you out of their hands. Her weak fingers clutched his shirt. It was such a small gesture, yet it gave him strength. He turned down a narrow passage, his boots splashing through filthy water. The air was thick with steam. Pipes above hissed like angry serpents. Behind him the sound of the hunters grew louder. These were not regular guards anymore. These were trackers, killers bred for one purpose: to find and destroy. Their shadows stretched long against the walls as their light swept the tunnels. Mark's chest tightened. He pressed Lyra close and whispered, "Stay quiet, don't let go." Then he slipped into an old maintenance shaft he remembered from his years cleaning. The shaft was small, lined with rust and grime, but it hid them for a moment. Through the slits in the metal, Mark saw the hunters pass. Their armor gleamed, their weapons pulsed with blue light. They moved with precision, their senses sharp. They were close, too close. Mark's heart pounded. He held his breath, praying they wouldn't notice. Lyra's glowing veins shimmered faintly under her skin. Mark quickly pulled his jacket tighter around her, hiding the light. One hunter paused, tilting its head. The silence was unbearable. Mark could feel sweat sliding down his back, every muscle in his body screamed to move, but he stayed frozen. At last the hunter turned and followed the others. The sound of their boots faded into the distance. Mark let out a slow breath. His arms trembled, but relief was short-lived. He knew they would circle back. They always did. He climbed out of the shaft, carrying Lyra again. His eyes searched the tunnel ahead. He needed a new plan. Running blindly would only lead them into another trap. Lyra's voice came, soft and broken. You should leave me. They want me, not you." Mark shook his head sharply. "No, Lyra, I'm not leaving you. Not now, not ever." Her eyes shimmered with weak light. She looked at him as if seeing something she could not understand. "Why, you don't even know me." Mark's voice cracked, but his words were firm. "I don't need to. You deserve to live. That's enough for me." The corridor ahead split into two. Mark stopped, listening carefully. To the left he heard faint machinery. To the right the sound of rushing air. He chose the right path, remembering that it led to an old hangar once used for scrap. The tunnel widened into a large chamber. Broken crates lay scattered, engines rusted in the corners. The air was damp and smelled of metal. Mark set Lyra down gently on a crate. His chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath. For the first time since the escape, he looked at her fully, her skin bruised, her eyes glowing faint but steady, and the strange symbols faintly glowing along her arms. He whispered, "What are you, Lyra? Why are they so afraid of you?" Her lips trembled, but she didn't answer. Instead, she closed her eyes as if hiding the truth even from herself. Before Mark could press further, the sound of boots echoed again, louder this time, closer. The hunters had tracked them here. Mark's body tensed. He looked around desperately, his eyes landed on a rusted pipe, long and heavy. He picked it up, gripping it tightly, his heart hammered. He had no real weapon, only his will. The shadows of the hunters filled the entrance of the hangar, their glowing eyes scanning the room, their weapons raised. The leader stepped forward, voice cold and sharp. Human, surrender the girl and your death will be quick. Mark stood in front of Lyra, pipe in hand. His voice was steady, though fear burned in his chest. You'll have to go through me first. The hunters spread out, circling. Their armor clanked as they moved. Mark shifted his stance, sweat dripping down his face. He was one man against an army, but he refused to step aside. Lyra opened her eyes weakly. She saw him standing there, trembling but unbroken, and something inside her stirred. Her veins glowed, brighter, faint but growing. Her lips formed a single word, Mark. He glanced back at her, their eyes meeting for a brief heartbeat. In that moment he wasn't just protecting her, he was protecting hope itself. The hunters lunged, weapons sparking. Mark gripped the pipe tighter, swinging with all his strength. The clash echoed through the hangar. The chase had ended and the fight for survival had begun. The hangar shook with noise. Pipes rattled, broken crates splintered, and sparks flew as Mark swung the rusted pipe against armored hunters. He was fast, desperate, but every strike felt like hitting stone. Their armor was too strong, their numbers too many. One hunter lunged, its glowing blade slashing through the air. Mark twisted aside, the blade grazing his arm. Pain burned, but he didn't stop. He slammed the pipe against the creature's helmet. It staggered for a breath, just long enough for Mark to shove it back. Behind him, Lyra lay against the crate. Her glowing veins pulsed brighter, spreading faint light across her bruised skin. Her eyes flickered open. She saw Mark bleeding, fighting, refusing to surrender. Something inside her stirred, something the masters had tried to bury. Mark's chest heaved, sweat stung his eyes. He knew he couldn't keep this up. Each swing grew slower, his arms heavy as iron. Still, he planted himself in front of Lyra, guarding her with his body. The hunters closed in. Their leader's voice echoed coldly, pathetic. Human, do you think you can stop us with rust and stubbornness? Mark spat blood, gripping the pipe tighter. His voice cracked but steady. I don't need to stop all of you. I just need to keep her safe. The hunters laughed, a cruel, metallic sound. They raised their weapons to strike together, but before they could move, a low hum filled the hangar. A glow spread from Lyra's body, soft at first, then stronger. It lit the dark corners, filling the chamber with silver blue light. The hunters froze. Their glowing eyes flickered nervously. The leader hissed, "No, it can't be. She's awakening." Mark turned, his eyes widened. Lyra was no longer just a broken girl lying helpless. The strain symbols along her arms burned brighter, forming patterns like ancient runes. Her faint breathing grew steady, her voice clearer than before. They tried to erase me, she whispered, her voice carrying through the air like a forgotten song. But I am not meant to die in the dark. Mark's heart pounded. He didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing: Lyra was far more than what they told him. The hunters panicked. One shouted an order, "Take her down before it spreads." They lunged forward, weapons raised, but this time Mark was not the only shield. Lyra's light burst outward, forming a barrier around her, and Mark energy cracked against it, sparks flying. The hunters stumbled back, snarling in frustration. Mark stared in awe, his voice shaky. "Lyra, what are you?" Her glowing eyes turned to him, tears shining in there. "Light, I am the secret. They feared my people's last hope, and they gave me a way to be forgotten." The words cut through him. He realized now why they had mocked her, chained her, and thrown her at his feet. They hadn't just wanted to break her, they had wanted to bury what she carried. Mark's hands tightened around the pipe, his blood boiled with anger. He had thought this was only about kindness, about saving one broken life, but now he understood it was much bigger. It was about defiance against an empire that feared its own truth. Lyra's light dimmed slightly as she coughed. The power drained her, her body trembled. Mark dropped beside her, catching her before she fell. He whispered fiercely, "Stay with me, don't let go." She nodded weakly, whispering, "They'll never stop, not until I am gone. You should leave me, Mark. Save yourself." Mark shook his head sharply. "No, Lyra, I won't leave you. If they want you gone, then I'll stand in their way, even if it kills me." Her glowing eyes softened, her lips trembled as if she wanted to argue, but instead a single tear rolled down her cheek. The hunters regrouped, their leader snarling, "Her power is unstable. She's weak. Strike now before she recovers." Mark stood again, pipe in hand, blood dripping from his wounds, his voice steady. "You'll have to go through me." The hunters charged, but this time Lyra raised her trembling hand. Light pulsed again, sharper, more focused. It struck one of the hunters, knocking it across the hangar. Its armor cracked, its body smoking. The others hesitated, fear finally in their eyes. Mark's heart raced. He had seen enough to know one truth. Lyra's secret was not just survival, it was power, and if it grew, it could shake the very foundations of those who ruled this place. The leader snarled, pointing his weapon, "If she awakens fully, we are finished. Kill them both." The hunters moved again, but now fear mixed with their fury. Mark tightened his stance, pipe ready. Lyra's light flared, fragile but unyielding. The battle was far from over, but the truth was no longer hidden. Lyra was not just a broken girl, she was the secret they feared most, and now that secret had begun to awaken. The hangar was filled with chaos. Sparks rained from broken wires. The smell of smoke clung to the air, and the heavy sound of boots pounded closer. The hunters tightened their circle, their glowing eyes locked on Lyra. She was glowing faintly, her runes flickering, her strength fading. Mark stood in front of her, blood dripping from his arm, the rusted pipe shaking in his grip. He was exhausted, every muscle screaming, but his resolve was sharp as iron. He knew the hunters would not stop, not until Lyra was gone. The leader pointed his weapon, his voice filled with rage. "The girl is unstable. She cannot control the power in her, and in the risk." Mark's jaw clenched. He spread his arms slightly, shielding Lyra with his body. His voice cracked but steady, "You'll get to her only over my dead body." The hunters charged, their weapons hummed with deadly light. Mark swung the pipe with desperate strength, smashing one across the head. Sparks flew. The creature staggered but did not fall. Another hunter struck his side, pain exploding through his ribs. Mark cried out but forced himself to stand. Lyra's voice broke through the noise, weak but desperate. "Mark, stop. You'll die." Mark turned his head slightly, his breath ragged. "If my life keeps you safe, it's Worth it, her glowing eyes widened. She reached a trembling hand toward him, but her power flickered unstable. She could not hold it long. She was fighting herself as much as the hunters. Mark roared, swinging the pipe again, knocking another back, but one hunter struck him hard across the back. He fell to his knees, blood filling his mouth. His arms trembled, yet he pushed himself back up, his body broken but his spirit unshaken. The leader snarled, "Foolish human, you are nothing but dirt. Why throw away your life for her?" Mark spat blood on the ground, his voice but burning with fire. "Because she's worth more than all of you, because mercy is stronger than your cruelty." The hunters hesitated, not at his words but at the light rising again behind him. Lyra was glowing brighter, her eyes shone with tears, her body trembling. She saw him bleeding, refusing to fall, sacrificing everything just to protect her. Her runes burned like fire, the symbols spread across her skin. Her voice cracked but clear. "Stop hurting him." A wave of light burst from her, slamming into the hunters, throwing them back. Their armor cracked, their weapons sparked and fell from their hands. The hanger shook as if alive. Mark stumbled, the blast nearly knocking him down too. He caught himself on a broken crate, staring at her in awe, his voice weak. "Lyra, you did it." But she was collapsing. Her body could not handle the power. Her glow flickered violently, her breath shallow. Mark rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. He held her trembling form against his chest, whispering, "Don't leave me, please. Don't leave me." Her lips parted, her words soft. "You gave me something back. You gave me a reason to fight. Don't waste it." Mark's throat tightened. He pressed his forehead against hers, his blood dripping onto her glowing skin. "Then I'll fight until my last breath." The hunters were not finished. Their leader rose, his armor cracked but his rage burning. "Her power is unstable. It will kill her and you. With her she cannot be saved." Mark looked at him, his eyes filled with fire. "Then I'll die trying." He stood again, pipe in hand, his body swaying but his will unbroken. He planted himself between Lyra and the leader. His chest rose and fell, his breath heavy, but he looked like a wall that would not move. The leader charged, weapon raised. Mark braced himself, but before the strike could fall, Lyra's hand shot forward. Her glow blazed brighter than ever, wrapping around both of them. Mark felt warmth instead of pain. Light surged through him, healing some wounds, steadying his heart. Leader screamed as the glow burned into his armor, cracking it apart. He staggered back, smoke rising from his body, his voice filled with fury. "She cannot survive this. You are killing her by keeping her alive." Lyra's voice was soft but unyielding. "No, he is saving me. He gave me what you tried to steal." "Hope," the leader snarled, retreating slightly. Fear was in his eyes now. He signaled to the others and they slowly pulled back, unwilling to face the light again. Hanger fell silent except for Mark's ragged breathing. He looked at Lyra, who was pale, barely conscious, her glow fading again. She had poured everything into that blast, sacrificing her own strength to save him. Mark cradled her gently, whispering, "Why did you do that? You nearly burned yourself away." Her faint smile broke his heart. "Because you showed me I was not broken. Because you risked everything for me. I had to give something back." Tears blurred Mark's vision. He held her close, his voice trembling. "Don't you dare leave me, Lyra. I'll carry you out of this if it kills me." Her glowing eyes softened, her hand weakly gripping his shirt. Then, "Carry me, Mark, carry me to tomorrow." And with those words, Mark rose once more, his body broken, his spirit burning, Lyra in his arms. The chase was not over, the war was not over, but the sacrifice had been made. One human had stood against the cruelty of an empire, and in doing so had awakened the light they feared most. The hangar was quiet. After the storm, the hunters had pulled back, their leader wounded and afraid of the power he had seen, but Mark knew it was not over. They would return with more soldiers, stronger weapons, and greater fury. Yet in that moment he only cared about the trembling girl in his arms. Lyra's glow was fading. Her runes, once bright as fire, flickered weakly across her skin. Her breaths were shallow, her head resting against his chest. Mark lowered himself onto the cold floor, cradling her carefully. His body was broken, cuts and bruises covering him, blood staining his shirt. But he did not let go. "Stay with me, Lyra," he whispered, his voice cracked. "Don't give up now. We made it this far. We can't stop here." Her lips moved faintly, the words barely a whisper. "I'm so tired, Mark. Maybe it's better if I let go." "No," he said fiercely, tears burning his eyes. "Don't say that. You're not broken anymore. You're stronger than them. You're stronger than me. You just need to believe it." For a long moment, silence filled the hangar, broken only by the sound of dripping water and the faint hum of broken machine. Then Lyra's glowing eyes opened slightly, shimmering with tears. She whispered, "You risked your life for me." "Why?" Mark held her tighter, his voice low but steady. "Because no one else would. Because you deserve to live. And because somewhere in this cruel galaxy, someone has to choose kindness." Her faint smile broke through her pain. Tears slid down her cheek. She reached a trembling hand and touched his face. Her glowing veins flickered, and then something changed. The symbols across her arms flared again, but this time the light was not wild or violent. It was calm, steady, warm. A soft wave spread outward, filling the hangar with silver blue glow. Mark felt it flow into his body, soothing his wounds, closing the gashes on his arms, steadying his broken ribs. His eyes widened in shock. He looked down at Lyra, who was glowing brighter with every passing second. Her runes no longer chaotic, but forming patterns of harmony, her broken body slowly mending itself as her power stabilized. "What's happening?" he whispered. Lyra's voice was soft but stronger now. "You gave me hope, Mark. That hope healed more than my spirit. It awakened what my people left inside me, the power to restore, the power to heal." Mark felt tears in his eyes again, not from pain but from awe. He watched as her bruises faded, her cuts closed, her trembling stopped. The broken alien girl he had carried was no longer broken. She was whole. The hangar doors creaked. Suddenly, more hunters appeared there, weapons ready. The leader stumbled forward, still burned from Lyra's earlier blast, his voice full of hatred. "End this, kill them now." But as the hunters stepped forward, they froze. The healing light filled the hangar like a rising sun, bathing everything in warmth. Their weapons sparked uselessly, their bodies trembling under the wave of power. Lyra stood slowly, her hands still gripping Mark's for support, but her back straight, her eyes glowing like stars. Her voice rang across the chamber, clear and strong. "You tried to Erase me, you tried to bury me, but you cannot destroy what was meant to live. The hunters staggered, fear etched across their faces. The leader roared and charged, his blade raised high. But Lyra lifted her hand, a burst of pure light erupted, striking him head-on. His armor shattered, his body thrown across the hangar. He lay still, his glowing eyes dark. The others dropped their weapons and fled, fear breaking their will. The hangar was silent again, but this silence was different. It was the silence of victory. Mark stared at her, his mouth dry, his voice trembling. Lyra, you saved us. She turned to him, her glowing eyes soft, her voice filled with warmth. No, Mark, you saved me first. Without you, I would have stayed broken. Without you, I would have been forgotten. You gave me the strength to rise. Mark's heart ached. He looked at her not as someone he had rescued, but as someone who had changed him. His voice was rough but honest. Then we saved each other. Lyra smiled, her light dimming gently until only her eyes glowed. She stepped closer, resting her forehead against his, her whisper soft but strong. From now on, whatever comes, we face it together. Mark nodded, his arms wrapping around her, his voice steady now. Together outside the hangar, alarm still blared. The masters would come again, stronger, angrier, but Mark no longer felt alone. He no longer felt powerless. By saving one broken girl, he had awakened something greater than fear. As they stood side by side, the healing light fading into calm glow, one truth filled the air. One human's mercy had changed the fate of a girl, and that girl's light would soon change the fate of a galaxy.